Okay, so everyone I talk to has basically the same problems. And this is how I know. They always say, "Oh my God, Shelly, your content is so relatable." And like, thank you for saying this, right? That's what they say all the time. I hope this mic is working well for you. If you can't hear me, I've done that before, comment below and let me know, but we should be good. Um, yeah, people say, "Oh, it's so relatable. Oh my God." And I'm like, yeah, that's what everybody says to me. That's what everybody says to me because it's normal. So here's what I'm talking about. If you find like in your marriage, your partner gets really defensive and they like won't listen when you're upset, or they tend to get really triggered by things that you don't understand why and kind of seem to be overreactive, or if you feel like they don't really listen to you the way you want them to listen to you and you're like really mad about this. This is something that like almost all the women I speak to experience in their marriage. Does it mean it has to stay that way? No, it doesn't mean it has to stay that way. It means it's a normal problem to have. And what we're doing in our culture nowadays is we're pathologizing everything. I mean, the therapeutic culture is getting out of hand. Now, I love therapy. Coaching is within the wellness world. It's within the how can we optimize our well-being, how can we have great lives, all that. So it's a kind of therapy. But the therapeutic culture has kind of devolved into this armchair diagnosing, right? They're a narcissist, they're avoidant, this person has anxious attachment style, this person has trauma. Now, I kind of love it. I know it's fun to analyze and to think about these things, but it really, really backfires when it comes to your romantic relationships. The only time it's really helpful is when the relationship cannot be fixed. So if you need to know that your partner has like some kind of insane mental health diagnosis and they're never going to be able to deal with it, or they're always going to act in certain really problematic ways, maybe you need to know that, right? Because you don't want to keep beating your head against the wall. But when you've got a normal husband who grow up in this world, grew up with his imperfect parents, doesn't have the best communication skills, hasn't learned how to, hold your emotions, have dialogues. He maybe doesn't ask you that many questions. He doesn't need a diagnosis, okay? He's just a dude living in the world. He's just a man in 2025, okay? And a man in 1980 would have been a little different. A man in 1900 would have been a little different. But these are things that are widespread. They're in the norm. They're in the middle of the curve. And we know this because it's everywhere in the literature, right? It's everywhere in the relationship literature. It's everywhere in the psychology. There's a term called alexithymia, which is inability to identify and express your emotions. They call it normative masculine alexithymia. So this is not weird. This is not outside of the curve. Does it cause some problems and some dysfunction? Of course it does. But if we can remember that we as men and women were not born knowing how to meet one another in a way that causes us to thrive and stay in love and be happily married and be supporting each other and growing together. We weren't born that way. And we then grew up in families that also did not teach us how to do that. So it's normal that we should struggle. It's expected that we should struggle. It's not like a weird, oh, you made a bad choice, your husband, your wife, they're so messed up. Oh my God. No, like it's actually quite predictable. So when people say like, oh my God, those people broke up and they looked so good together, I'm never shocked. I'm never shocked. I'm like, yeah, that's disappointing because they're both wonderful individuals. They're both kind and honest and good people. But I know from my practice that being a kind and honest and good person is not equal to knowing how to maintain a long-term relationship. It's not equal to knowing how to express yourself, knowing how to be heard, knowing how to have boundaries. Because what's really going on here is our nervous systems are working against us. Our instincts are working against us, right? Our instincts are overreacting and getting scared when our emotions are upset, and that feels like danger, and therefore we freak out, and that causes the downward spiral in your relationship. So that's why I'm on this track with archetypes, because when we think of our relationship problems as pathological, aka toxic or my attachment style is messed up, their attachment style is messed up, this person is too screwed up to relate. When we envision it that way, when that's our story, we are now in shame. And we either need to shame ourselves or shame them because something's wrong with us, and this is bad, right? This is bad. You got a diagnosis, I got a diagnosis. I'm not saying diagnoses are bad. I'm saying that we have the tendency to take that on as weight, as blame, as judgment, which makes it even harder for us to experiment with new ways of being, because now we're locked into this narrative of something's wrong with me or something's wrong with you because, that's what everyone's telling me on the internet, something's wrong with us. And no, most of the time, nothing's wrong with anybody. We are existing on the normal spectrum of human behavior, which includes not so good with words, not so good with words, not so good with navigating, holding space for different perspectives. You think different than I think. How can that be? The whole world is like me. Like, these are normal human problems. So when we use archetypes to heal our relationship, instead of looking at what's the disease, what's the diagnosis, we look at what is the ideal archetype for how I could show up in this relationship? What is the energy? We can look at role models, or we can look at gods and goddesses, or we can look at books or anything, right? This is how we grow as humans. We grow through mentorship. This is our normal way to grow. To look at somebody doing something the way we like it, or the way that works, and go, oh, and then our bodies naturally pick it up, our nervous systems, our whole selves. But when we read psychology books, when we read self-help books, we learn strategies and we learn techniques. And they never work right. If you notice your strategies and techniques never quite work right, and you're like, this thing sucks. I read all these books, they don't work. I used to be that person. I'd read all the books and nothing quite worked right. And that's because I didn't know how to be. I had never seen it. I didn't understand what it felt like in my body to be the woman who is well loved, to be the woman who knows how to stand up for herself, to be the woman who stays deeply in love with her husband, and vice versa. I'd never seen that. Not really, not up close and personal, right? You see it at a distance, but you don't see it up close. And so that's what I'm going to be teaching you in this new archetype reset program. If you want to get on the wait list, drop reset below. And in Archetype Reset, I'm going to be giving you the models, the imagery, the poetry, the feeling and sensation of the woman who stands up straight, receives love, communicates well, enjoys her pleasure, is just living in this flow of being a fully actualized person that is well received by her husband, that is treated well by her husband, that is supported by her husband. There's so much I want to say about this. I'm going to save it for the program because I could just go on and on. But if you're interested in this, if you have any questions about it, drop them below, message me. I haven't released all the details yet because we're still working out when and how, but you're going to get some discounts if you join first. So if you want to get on that wait list, you're going to get discounts and you're going to get bonuses. One of my favorite bonuses is there's going to be a BOGO bonus. Buy one, get one free. So if you join and you bring a friend, you can both join for the price of one. It's not going to cost that much anyway. It's practically free for what you're going to get. 4 days, 4 live calls, actually 2 weeks, but 4 live calls and support in between to step into these archetypes and turn your marriage around. Take that ship and turn it. Break the old patterns and create new ones, because that's what we need. We need to stop the old dynamic and we need to create a new one and build it up into the upward spiral, which I call your real life love story. So if you're interested in that, message me. I cannot wait to hear from you. Take care.